Travel with me.
Hey fellow humans, Mina here. Welcome back to another Drive and Talk Hanoi edition. And also this is a special episode, but not really because we're going to do the same as every other episode, but it's actually the 200th video I made on this channel. Not counting like previous travel videos or whatever, so enjoy I guess. And for this special 200th video, there's really nothing special about it at all. We are concluding the Schoolomance series, or trilogy, or whatever. This week we're going to talk about The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik. Before we get into the little rant review, because it's another rant review, let's read the back of the book, and it's in first person for some reason, even though the other ones weren't, if I remember correctly. Anyway, let's get into it. The one thing you never talk about while you're in Schoolomance is what you'll do when you get out. Not even the richest enclaver would tempt fate that way. But it's all we dream about. The hideous slim chance we'll survive to make it out of the gates and probably find ourselves with a life ahead of us. A life outside the Schoolomance halls. And now the impossible dream has come true. I'm out, we're all out, and I didn't even have to turn into a monstrous dark witch to make it happen. So much for my great-grandmother's prophecy of doom and destruction. I didn't kill the enclavers, I saved them. Me and Orion and our allies. Our graduation plan worked out to perfection. We saved everyone and made the world safe for all wizards and brought peace and harmony to the enclaves everywhere. Ha! Only joking. Actually, it's gone all wrong. Someone else had picked up the project of destroying enclaves in my stead, and probably everyone we saved is about to get killed in the brewing enclave war. And the first thing I've got to do now, having miraculously gotten out of the Schoolmates, is to turn straight around and find a way back in. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? I thought so too. The whole series sounds interesting, and it also sounds like it could potentially lead to more, but it wrapped up pretty well. But yeah, a rant incoming, because as mentioned before, this is Info Dump, the series, and even though these books are relatively short, that doesn't stop them from info dumping all through every single damn book. Although, let's get into the review. It finally got better. Not a lot, but this was by far the best of the trilogy. For most of this book, I was engaged. It had a strong start, and I didn't feel as info-dumpy as the other two books, though the info-dump were still there this time. They felt like they were at it at the right time and the right amount. For the first half of the book, anyway. And speaking of the first half of the book, I bet many parents are wondering why the kid they just sent to school got returned. And are other parents going to wonder why they can't send their kid to school? I mean, I would personally be happy not to send my kid to this death school, but do they still need education? Do they not? They never discussed how kids would get an education once the Schoolomance were gone in the last book. And yes, the Schoolomance lives on, but they didn't know that that would happen when they tried to send it to the void. Speaking of the name Schoolomance, which I still think is stupid, but that's a me issue, I never once saw in my life 2 chapters have the same name. I am an author, so I should know if this is normal or not, but I don't. Is this normal? Has anyone else ever heard of using the same chapter name twice in one book? The first appearance was in chapter 10, and then again in the last chapter, both titled The Schoolomance. This is more of a nitpick on my part, but it felt weird. And speaking of weird, I hate that Elle breaks the fourth wall by addressing us as readers. She did this in the first book too, but I forgot to mention it in my review. This is also definitely a me issue, but I found it really weird, and it took me out of the story and left me with questions like, is she writing a journal or a book to future generations to read? Is she telling us the story? Why call us readers? Also, Novik doesn't seem to know how airports work. Like, if Elle is traveling the mundane way, which is like the non-magic people name, which is, I guess, okay. Not very original, but alright. Because of magic reasons, then eventually customs are going to question Elle and all the short travels around the world with no luggage. She should be stopped and interviewed by immigration at some point. I mean, yeah, this doesn't happen because it will bog down the book, but still, if you're going to include chapters of exposition, might as well add a few more words to the count. And speaking of airport stuff, Elle, not using any spells, would have been able to get on that Mumbai flight. I know it's a different part of the world, but surely security isn't that lax, and just let a rando get on a plane and work for free without training? You know, it takes weeks to become a flight attendant. They don't just serve peanuts, you know. That said, even though I was going to give this possible 4 stars, I enjoyed myself more in this read. I did give it a lower rating for now, with more like 3.5 or something. Like I said, it had a strong start, but shortly after Elle and friends found Orion, it started going downhill after the halfway-ish point. It felt like a Disney special where they had originally planned made for TV series, but then decided to make it into a movie, so they put it all together in that. And in the end, it was just long enough just to be considered a feature film. This was by far the strongest book in the series, and I wish the others were like this one. There was also more plot as well, but if Novik decides to continue this series someday, I think I won't be continuing. It ended well enough, even with the last chapter. Could have been a bit more explanation about the aftermath of the previous chapter. It's not a bad series, it's just not my favorite, and I don't know if I could handle more exposition. Even though the exposition was interesting, my issue is it was actually more interesting in the actual story, and that's my problem with it all. However, if you don't mind tons of exposition, you can still have an okay time reading it, I guess. It's a pretty popular series for a reason, and, maybe you'll enjoy it. I don't know. How about you guys, my fellow humans? Have you heard of this series? Would you mind lots of exposition in order to keep your fantasy book within like 300 to 400 pages, or do you like big chunks of fantasy books so that the world is more fleshed out and the exposition comes naturally? Or what are your thoughts and opinions? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear them. Anywho, that's all I gotta say for now. If you want to keep hearing more about stuff, be sure to follow me on all your favorite socials. Links below. Stay safe and take care. Bye.